Okay, here's my super non-professional video on putting together this little magnolia. So I have 5 done now, right here. 5 little petals, 5 of the big ones. I haven't done the little ones yet, so maybe I should have waited for that. But anyhow, so I'm gonna load up with my little spinner because I love my Ritter spinner. And so I use 26 gauge pearl silver wire because it has a light coating on it, which actually makes it easier to grab, and it kind of makes the twists lock in a little bit better. So, and it's, oops, I just do that wrong. That doesn't normally happen. I'm trying to keep in view of the camera, so. Okay, so this 26 gauge, like I said, you can't really probably see it on this, but it does a nice little, and it's almost kind of matte. It works really well for any neutrals. Okay, do your little twist at the top. Now, about 3/8 of an inch, but this one wasn't exactly that, so I'm rounding up and doing 5. They're very consistent sizing, which the vintage ones are not, so 9 is pretty much always the same size. And then make our basic frame. I like to have a lot of extra twist on the end because I feel like it gives it more stability when assembled. So let's give it about 1 inch of twist, even though we won't need that much. Okay, now make sure I'm actually in the camera. Straighten your wire. I normally for my regular flowers use 24 gauge, so the 26 still feels really wimpy to me. Give myself a little more lead. Okay, so make sure it's straight. I get a little OCD about that. I kind of rub it back and forth both ways. Now, I'm going to do a more round bottom on this guy than, maybe I should be doing this on top of a darker, I don't really have anything except maybe these brown paper towel things. Let's put that here. Maybe it's easier to see on top of that. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Okay, so anyhow, so I'm not doing a super pointed bottom. I'm doing kind of a rounded one. And so I'm going to pinch and hold these closed. These beads, they're matte and they're small. So they kind of, and they have a bigger hole. So you're going to see that they kind of zigzag on the thing, but that'll straighten out later. But it actually gives it a little bit of texture, so that's good. So I want the round top for sure. So I'm going to make sure I get right up there. And you want to do, the reason I'm doing the video is because there is a slight little trick to it, is that I want it to be a really tight one, because I'm going to actually end up cupping them almost. I'm going to end up bending them. So if anything, round down on the number of beads so that it gets tighter. So you might have like, it might end up looking, let me flatten this one as much as possible, for example. Don't know why I grabbed another one. So you can see that this one already, if you look at it, it's already kind of cupped. So that way when I bend it, it does it a little bit more naturally. And it doesn't have a lot of gaps in it. Otherwise you'll have gaps when you bend it. So again, you can play with them. Okay, so I'm gonna do this part. I don't know how to pause on an iPhone video. So I guess I have to do this kind of fast. So again, and now it's gonna make it messier because I'm gonna get a little nervous about it being fast. Okay, so again, you're kind of rounding down, meaning like if it's in between a bead, you want it to kind of, in fact, I sometimes put a little bow on it already, a little arch, just a very slight, very, very slight arch on it to kind of pre-cup it, get it kind of going in that direction. And then I always push, when I load, I push it back if I want a little point on the bottom. And again, it's slightly pointed on the bottom. The Southern Magnolias are definitely more round than the saucer Magnolias. Now up top, you're gonna wanna undercut it. So this one, the problem is it would be perfect for it to be in between. So I'm gonna actually choose a lower one so I can cup it, and then I'm gonna push this back a little bit with my fingernail to kind of force it to meet it there. Otherwise, it would be too many beads and it would start to get off kilter. And, which is not the end of the world because you're gonna shape these anyway. But if it does it this early on, it'll keep going, and most likely. You can fix that though, if you need to. Now again, I'm not used to doing videos, so I'm probably off screen and I'm probably and also I have kind of hand issues, so I have to hold it I can't really let go of it very easily. So again, I'm pushing really hard. You can see like the white of my fingernails, like I'm pushing, there's a lot of tension. I'm really pushing back on these beads this whole time. And kind of shaping as I go. Okay, and then cutting it off a little bit earlier than you might think by eye, because again, I want that kind of bowed shape. So keep your top wire straight. Now again, I kind of lift and push to make sure that this really gets that V on top so there's no bare wire showing, which is not the end of the world. These are just my OCD moments with when I assemble flowers. If you can't tell from my stuff, I'm a tad OCD about it. And I'm not using that phrase casually. I get a little uptight about it. Okay, so we'll bring this back around. I'm going to do a 9-row. So only one more pass after this one. And again, see, I'm kind of keeping it shaped as I go, and I'm going, oh, that stuck out too far right there. It stuck out too far. So I'm going to bring my nail in there, my top of my thumb, and get it flatter against the side again to make sure that I'm really getting. And again, see, I'm underdoing it. If you look at this, you can see it looks like I should do one more bead, but I don't want to. I don't want to, because I want it to be kind of tight so that it bows under so that when I shape it, there's no gaps. So you can already see, and there's only one more pass to go, that I got a cup thing going on here. Now, this is not the end of the world if you don't do this. This is like just the little details. And again, push it in so that you get that V. Don't just wrap it over. And again, you can see that I'm doing, it's not the pointiest bottom, and I don't want it to be. I want it to be only very slightly pointed. Okay, this is my last pass. I'm gonna make sure this is up. Okay, let's see. I feel like that's too loose right there. I was like, I feel like I'm putting too many beads on that one. So you want to kind of just always be shaping as you go and do a tight twist. In fact, when I do the twists, I bring the, especially with the smaller gauge wire, anything smaller than 24 especially, I actually bring it around inside that bead and then push it down with my fingernail so that when I actually load this next row, it is flush with the original, which I'm sure everyone does something like that unconsciously. So that way, like I said, you have less kind of gappage there, and they look like they line right up. Now, when you see these wiggles, that's because the hole is larger, a lot larger than the wire, so they have a lot more play on it. But I don't want to use a 24 on this because it would make it too clunky. I could probably put a 24 through it, but I don't want to. Because that would just add too much bulk to it. I like the 26. So there's my little petal. There's my little petal. That's a happy little petal. And then I wrap around fast. I wrap all the way to the bottom of my twist. I'm going to leave this as a 3-wire bottom. But I might not end up using it as a 3-wire because that might be too clunky too, but I just want to have that option. Tie this guy off. So I'm going to I cut it a little bit lopsided here, not right through the middle, or else you get a jagged edge on your wire. Again, uptight bead person, imagine that. I cut about, 1/4 of an inch, and then of course we've all done this. We just tie the tip this little top over so it doesn't get snagged on things. Tip that down underneath, tip it in, and then I do this weird thing because I like it to be flush on the stem wire. So I take the flat part of the needle nose, the non-serrated part, and I gently tamp. Don't tamp all the way, or the wire will can snap, but I just tap it down so that it gets a little flatter. That way when I assemble it onto the stem wire, it gets a little more flush on there. Also, it doesn't stick out as much, so doesn't make the stem wire as bulky. So then I push that down, take it here, push it down so it's a nice flat one. Now we're gonna shape it. Pull my wires down, little finger here, and then making that kind of flat. I want that bottom to be kind of flat. And then the top, I do it obviously differently than big ones, but I want it to have a little natural flair to it. So I'll just kind of like stick my one thumb under here so that it holds up this shape, and then twist this one in some way I want to. Try to make them all slightly different. That doesn't always come out with the small ones. So then you get like a little cup like that. These are also handy if you just stick your fingernail under there, if you just want a nice rounded tip on it. So it just kind of curves just at the top. And so that's one petal. Wow, it took me 9 minutes to do a petal. I didn't expect it to be that long. Anyhow, that's one petal.